Welcome to episode 47 of the Grace Shepherd's Memo. I am once again Pastor David. Um, Today I want to talk to you about another principle of youth ministry, but let me introduce it by simply saying this. I've never seen myself as a youth pastor or the youth guy. I've always seen myself as a pastor who just happens to be over youth. I see myself as a pastor, ultimately, in relation to people. I'm a pastor over big people and little people. That's who I am. And this kind of relates to my principle of youth ministry, and it's how the youth group and how I as a pastor relate to parents. This is how I see myself. And so maybe this will help you think about our youth ministry. Principle number 6, we don't replace parents, we reinforce them. Now, that's a very simple statement to say, but what do I mean by that? Well, this principle really helps me think about youth ministry along the lines of two common assumptions I hear kind of stated about youth ministry that I disagree with. One assumption is from a parent that perhaps looks in the Bible and he doesn't or she doesn't see youth ministry in there, and so they conclude, hey, I am the only one that's going to have a spiritual impact in my kid's life. I don't need a youth group. Another assumption I hear is from a parent, perhaps, who sees youth ministry as the only hope for their kids. I think both of those assumptions are dangerous. You may get some good results from them, but they might not be as biblical as you think they are. To the second parent, the parent who kind of sees the youth group as the only hope for their student, I would challenge them to look at the book of Proverbs and just note how many times a father or a parent is talking to their children. This is God's design for how kids learn about God. The first and primary teacher in a child's life is their parents. Their parents are supposed to teach them all sorts of things, how to tie their shoe, how to make their bed. But ultimately, God has given the parents the responsibility and joy of teaching their kids about God. And so I would say that to those people who think youth group isn't important. You need to realize God's calling on you is very important, and you are to take hold of that. And if you don't know where to start, God gives you a little parenting manual there in Proverbs. Just walk through Proverbs with your kids and say, hey, this is how we are supposed to live. There's this thing called the fear of God that we need to talk about right now. That will get you very far as a parent. So to you parents who maybe don't see your significance, I would encourage you to read the Bible and recognize the incredible shaping influence you have in your life. And let me just say, as a pastor and as your pastor, give me something to reinforce on a weekly basis. I will spin my wheels in ministry if parents are not doing these things as well. But that kind of leads to the response to the first parent who, of course, opens their Bible and they don't see youth ministry in those pages. I would just say to you, be a wise parent. Yes, be careful, but also be wise and recognize the fact that you don't want to be the only person speaking the truths of the Bible into the life of your child. You want your child to be surrounded by people who are speaking God's word into their life. You want your child to be in positive relationships with older Christians who can help them and can encourage them and can say really the same things that you are saying to them, but from different ways. I think we see this modeled in Titus chapter 2, where we have older women come alongside younger women. In that way, I want to reinforce you, and that's what our youth ministry wants to do. We want to be saying the same thing. Are we saying the same things, though? That's the question we need to figure out. In all of my kind of meetings that I have with parents, that's my number one question. I want to make sure we're saying the same things, and I will ask fathers, what are you What are you doing to speak biblical truths into the life of your children? And then I will just kind of evaluate, hey, are we even doing the same things? Once again, my ministry is to reinforce, but I can only reinforce you as far as you are speaking the truth of God into the life of your student. I hope that principle encourages you. It encourages me to think about. I hope I'll see you again soon. But until then, I'll see you next week on another Grace Shepherd's Memo.